Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. So glad you guys could join us once again. For those tuning in on the simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X, we're glad you all can be with us. Going to bring in our friends over on Instagram so they can be part of our chat. And last but certainly not least, going to connect with our friends over on Amazon Live so I can introduce to some, reintroduce to others our next guest. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this as summer is wrapping up. You're looking for a great read. I think you guys are going to enjoy the one we have for today. And we're now live on the Amazon Live platform with Cyrus Webb Presents. Going to type you guys a welcome message over there. If you guys are new to us on Amazon, welcome. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button either here in this corner or down below. You also will see some of the books by our next guest. We're excited to welcome back Amazon bestselling author Colette R. Harrell to our broadcast today. She's the author of this book you guys can see here later. I'm going to highlight for you guys on the Amazon side, but her newest book is the one that has people talking, and that is Chasing Different. We're going to talk to Colette not only about her writing journey, but what it's been like for her to not only to bring in different elements to her books, different genres together, but also create characters like we meet in this book with Nia and Deacon that I think all of us can relate to. Colette, my friend, welcome back to the broadcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Cyrus. Always a joy to sit and talk with you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I have some news for you, Colette, that you have no idea about.
I
I love
don't.
secrets.
Are
No,
you
no.
getting? Are you going to get me live on here when I scream? What's
Of,
happening?
of course. Isn't it makes for great television? So Colette, let's talk about Chasing Different. I mean, it is different for you in some ways, but also ties into, as I mentioned with later, some elements that we've kind of be getting used to from you. What has it been like for you to see the response to the new book?
I absolutely love it. I was just telling you a little earlier that my best critic and my best cheerleader are the same person. That's my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She's 99 years old. Anybody knows anyone 99, they have no filter.
Mm-hmm.
And so she originally was like, I'm trying to read the book, but I can't see well, and so forth and so on. So yesterday I get a phone call from her, and she says, I was up till 2:30 in the morning reading this book. She said, and I have to go to church in the morning. So I had to call and tell you this book must be really good for me to almost miss church trying to read this book. So that was like the best validation, because she would have said, if this ain't some mess you wrote, she would have given me that. She would have given me that interview, that review. So
Right.
she literally said how much she loved it. So that's when I knew, hey, I struck it out, hit that ball out the park, because mom loves it. So, hey, yeah.
And I'm excited about being able to work with you, Colette, in spreading the word about Chasing Different and these characters. And I want to, for those who are just, I said to you before we went live here, I want to kind of treat this as an introduction to many, because some who are just finding out about these characters, Nia and Deacon, definitely want to kind of give them an idea of what they can expect from the book. But I want to go back a little bit and talk about the courage it takes to do what you do. And that is to be able to write the kind of books you want to write. You did it with later, where you're able to mix in different elements of the books, and you found readers that came along with you. You've done it again with Chasing Different. Where did that courage come from? Because I'm sure for some authors, they're told, you know what, you have to pick a genre, you have to do this, do that. What is it that has given you the courage, Colette, to be able to write the kind of books you want to write?
Because when I hesitate to be me, when I'm not authentic, it does not come on the page. It's like my characters refuse to talk to me. And
Mm,
so my imagination is very vast. And people say, you've got all of this happening in one book, but that is how my mind works.
mhm.
And so if I don't let myself and let my creativity flow, and I try to hinder it, I end up doing the book an injustice and myself an injustice. And Chasing Different has a tagline: fitting in has a price.
Mm,
And so that's really home to me, because when I try to fit in, I don't. As a
yeah,
matter of fact, I stick out like a sore thumb. And then I'm not pleasing anybody, especially myself.
yeah.
So, in order for me to like my stories, I have to tell them authentically and organically in my way. And if Nia says something to me as I'm writing, I let Nia tell me who she is.
Mhm. And I love that. And I think what you just shared, Colette, is a connection people will see with Nia, with Deacon, and yourself, because each one of them have their own thing about them that makes them different, that makes them unique, but it also is what attracts, one to the other, but also gives them that superpower. So I wanted to ask you, as Nia and Deacon kind of recognize what their gifts are, was it easy for you to embrace that gift?
It was because Nia started off, all of my characters, I like them to take a journey.
Hmm.
You'll see it in later where Sari ends up surprising everybody, this big twist of who she really is in the book. You see it with Nia and you see it with Deacon and also with Sin and Jonesy. And what I like is Nia started off as my cowardly lioness, right? She's so concerned with how people feel about her and what people think about her that she cannot live her life open. And so as she gets in danger, there's something about danger that pulls and peels away all of the fakeness, and you get down to the root of who a person really is. And so I think that happened with her. I think the further she went into the book, the further she understood that she had to be herself, and that being herself was not a bad thing.
And that there would be people there who would not only embrace her, Colette, but also be willing to go the extra distance for her. And that's what Deacon also realizes. And you've given us this interesting cast of characters. But I want to get into something that, for me as a reader, Colette, is the meat of the book, and that is the weaponization of knowledge. And I
Mm.
feel like that's one of those things that you've kind of put in this book in a really interesting way, that in the hands of the wrong person, how dangerous it can be, but also how it can be used against others. Talk to us about that as a theme and how it kind of evolved for you with this particular book.
So that's where people really kind of reach out to me and they really see layers into it that I intended them to. So kudos to all my readers who read between the lines, because when you boil it all down, Chasing Different has a very strong political aspect to it. And it's kind of hidden in the romance, hidden in the thriller part, but it's there. And
Yeah.
so knowledge is power, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? We all know that. We've heard that adage. And so I really kind of wanted to show that and show how the people that have been in control of knowledge and sparingly gave it out as they wanted to have been placed in more and more powerful positions because they were in the know. The Book of Disasters is that book that tells them what's going to happen and where. And they've been able to not try to save people, but have used that information in order to cash in on it, in order to grow more deadly and more powerful in this world that we live in. And I wanted to also make sure that I didn't just talk about the United States,
Hmm.
but I wanted to talk about this being a global issue. And
Right.
so, there are those of us who are realizing more and more how much we don't know about what's really going on. And I
Yeah.
think AI is going to take us even further down that road.
Right. So true. Stacey Thomas, hello to you over there on IG. Glad you could be able to join us. I see you guys also over there on YouTube. If you guys have any questions or comments for Colette, make sure you guys do put those in the chat. And that is such a great point. And that brings us to some of the auxiliary characters we're able to meet in Chasing Different. Of course, Nia and Deacon are the primary characters. We're kind of able to see them come into each other and get to trust each other and then support each other. But they also have people around them that do that too. We haven't talked about this yet, Colette, but we should let our audience know this is the first of a series. Did you know when you wrote Chasing Different it was going to be a series, or did you come up with the idea for the series before you started writing Chasing Different?
I wanted to write a series, and later, so many people asked for later part two.
Okay.
And I had this book with Deacon and Nia. And so as I began to write them, I began to understand how the characters in later could meet up with these characters, and that it could be later could be a loose fitting prequel, so to speak. But as I continued to write, and Sin was such a strong character, and Jonesy was such a strong character, I knew this had to be the trilogy that I was going to do. And so Chasing Different, Finding Different, and Loving Different plays out. And I wanted to have characters that were flawed, but also that were outside the box.
Right.
With Deacon being neurodivergent on the spectrum, with Sin having dissociative disorder, where she has a split personality, and where their Deacon and Jonesy's parents telling their story in the third book and kind of going back to the very beginning and finding out how Jonesy escaped that white supremacist camp and how his father ended up loving this woman and telling the story for the other two. So I really enjoyed it. I'm enjoying writing, finding different right now, and really even going on not only with their story, but showing you what's happening with Nia and Deacon too.
Love that. And so I want to go back to, you mentioned the subtitle "Fitting In Has a Price," and you just mentioned about Deacon being neurodivergent. You made a point, and you say it in the book, that you didn't go into detail on purpose for that. But why was it important for you? And going back to the conversation we had earlier, kind of as a tie-in, Colette, about letting that be his superpower that he had.
Well, first of all, I have family members that are on the spectrum.
Hmm.
And I say that because some people have an issue with saying spectrum. I've talked to my family members. They don't have a problem with saying on the spectrum.
Hmm.
And so autism is in my family. ADHD is in my family. Asperger's is in my family, and so I wanted to talk about them and have them have their love stories. And I didn't want anyone to look at it and say, well, my child doesn't have that, or my spouse doesn't do that, or my niece or nephew doesn't do that. So I didn't name it because even within my own family, people who have the same diagnosis operate and exemplify it differently. And so I wanted to keep that out of the equation and let Deacon be Deacon. And there's a statement in there by his mother who said, I decided to love him the way he was and take all labels off and raise him as the loving child he is. And so that ended up making him a very, very prominent and successful individual. Even with these issues, he turned it into a superpower. He turned that focus, that super focus he had, into allowing other people to live well because of what he invented and what he discovered.
Yeah. And I think we saw in a great conversation with Jonesy in talking about Nia with Deacon, where, basically Deacon is letting Jonesy know that, he almost feels like he has to be there for her to do his part to keep her, that is part of his responsibility. And again, it kind of goes to that saying we hear, Colette, about not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah.
I think this book kind of shows that in a lot of different ways. That you have these characters like Sin. I think readers will find that name interesting as they get to know Sin. But but that,
Yeah, especially if they catch what her mother said in the first chapter.
mm-hmm,
If they catch what her mother said when she begged them not to call her Sin,
mm-hmm,
not to nickname her that, I think, and then her going on to live that life, you find out there's a lot in the name. But go
mm-hmm.
ahead. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, 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 no. You're fine. You're fine. But I think that is what makes these characters so interesting, and I think makes people want to get to know them and experience them. I want to talk about the action though for a second, because you do have an antagonist here, but it also, I think, it's deeper than that, and we'll talk around this, Colette, because we do have, just like you have Nia and Deacon, their supporters on this quest for what they believe to be right. It could easily be said that those on the other side, when it comes to the Book of Disasters, think what they're doing is right too, that they have a right motive. What was it like for you to play with the idea of right and wrong with the characters?
Well, I have this real sense of justice. And so for me, my bad is bad. Although there are gray areas, for me, I wanted General to be real clear. But I also wanted to show you a little bit of his background where he felt misunderstood and overlooked.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a problem with what he did to his father because he did not feel seen, and how it shapes our childhood, shapes our later life. for him to end up being such a diabolical, sinister character and being very narcissistic in personality and self-serving.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think again, as readers are able to get inside of this, they would think, you know, again about what makes people do what they do. And I have to talk about Jonesy for a moment, because I love the fact that there is, in chapter 15 of the book, I've made a note of it to bring up in the conversation with you,
Uh-huh.
Colette. There's this idea of, when dealing with Deacon, that Jonesy was very protective. And in fact, there's that scene that you wrote between Jonesy and Jones Sr., where Jones Sr., and this isn't spoiling anything, basically is saying, um, we don't even know this little freak. And then Jonesy says, "Stop calling my brother a freak. He ain't no freak." I wanted to bring that up, because I think, for a lot of people, there is this idea of anyone who is different is an other. Talk to us about that for you in creating these characters, about, not allowing your characters to be othered, and to be able to be embraced for who they are.
I think we all have childhoods that there's something about it we could go back and change. And for some people, their childhoods are much more harder than the rest of us, much more difficult. Let's use that word. And so for Deacon, children can be more cruel than anybody, right? Because what is different, what they hear and may not understand and repeat, and they repeat, sometimes can be the death blow to a child's image, self-image, and self-confidence. And so for Deacon, the children, the other kids in the neighborhood, because they saw that he was different, because they saw that he was other, calling him words like the little freak. And so when his father comes to try to rescue him, and Jonesy, who has always been Deacon's protector, gets into a fight to protect his brother, and then he gets hurt. Jonesy, who has always been a peace loving uh, child and a peace loving young man, and ends up being a peace loving adult, ends up showing just how many skills he has and just how deadly he can be when he goes, not only because Jonesy loves Deacon, but because Deacon loves Jonesy. Deacon's superpower turns on, and he's super focused about protecting his brother, even in the midst of them calling him freak. And Jonesy doesn't want to see his brother talked about, doesn't want to see his brother hurt. And he has made it his mission, because, and I don't, because of something that happened, try not to tell it all,
Mm-hmm.
because of something that happened in Jonesy's background, he identifies with being hurt. And he doesn't want his brother to go through anything that would hurt him. And so the two of them are allies,
Mm-hmm.
right? They love each other, they're allies.
And that's what you led me right into where I wanted to go for the reader. I think that's what we also kind of want for ourselves, right? That we
Mhm.
want someone who's going to be there for us. Maybe they can identify exactly with what we're going through, but they know what it's like to be other. And we see that happening in the world, which is why I think this book is so interesting in the connections here, Colette, because there are people today, we see, these code words being thrown out to try to other people. But then you have
Mhm.
other people coming and say, you know what, that's not a bad thing. DEI comes to mind. And then people helping people understand, okay, that is actually good. This is not a good idea to be trying to take away, the gifts that someone has. And I think that's what makes this book so timely. Could you have imagined, though, that the world would be where it is, Colette? I know you said you tried to make this less about just the United States, but more of a world view. But could you have imagined you'd be living in a time that this book is as not only as timely as it is, but I think is I think also needed as it is for readers?
It would be my greatest desire that this book was so supernatural, science fiction, that it wasn't actually happening. I really wish it was be like people were like, yeah, it was really good, but she writes all this fantasy. No, it's unfortunate that
Mhm.
people are actually asking me, are you getting pushback on this? Did you realize how political this was? Where people are actually reading it and seeing a lot of the things that are going on today. Of course, I always have this supernatural vein, and I believe for every good thing, there's an evil thing. So
Mhm.
we have the Bible, the good word, and so then we have the book of disasters, this evil
Mhm.
book. And so, and I'm just playing with this evil book, and what it would be if all of this was actually written down somewhere, and instead of you getting good prophecies, you got these horrible prophecies, and that people are actually living through them, and orchestrating power moves through this book. And so I think that my dearest wish would be that it wasn't real, right? That it didn't have any real elements, that they were like, girl, this girl can write some fantasy. But unfortunately, people are reading it and saying the opposite, like, this is so good. Even my mom, when she called, and she was like, this is so and so. I see so and so in this. And I'm like, I understand. And she said, well, did you write it about so and so? And I'm using so and so. And those who have read the
Yeah.
book, read between the lines, you know who
Mhm.
so and so is. Um, in actuality, not until I got towards the end did I realize who I was writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and I should say, for those, I mean, Colette actually told myself and a group of others about this book last year.
Yeah.
It was not out yet, of course, but she had told us about this book. So this is something that is, I mean, that she has been living with for some time. I actually got a chance to see the cover there a year ago. So I mean, this is something
Mhm.
that is not new, but it definitely is something that is relatable and enjoyable to read, I should say. I mean, it is an enjoyable side. I don't want you guys to take it as, being something so quote unquote serious, but it is something that will keep you wondering what happens next, but also invested in these characters. Colette, we're going to take a very quick break, something I don't typically do, but there's a special reason for this one. We're going
Uh-oh.
to take a quick break here, and
Okay.
we'll continue our conversation, okay?
Okay.
All right.
I kept my heart in quiet places, between the lines of worn out pages. The world was loud, the love was fake, so I chose stories I could take. Then you showed up like a sunrise, too bold, too bright for my disguise. Smiling out, not asking why, and suddenly I felt alive. But this is safe is where I should be, not chasing sparks of mystery. But somehow you understand.
You're late again. Why don't you set your watch?
I'm
not late, just fashionably on my own time.
You're the truth I never mentioned, the risk I was too scared to take.
All right, and we're back with Cyrus Webb Presents. You all just saw some of the individuals has already purchased their copy of Chasing Different. You all, of course, if you have not gotten your copy, now is the time. You can get it in print, or you can get the Kindle edition here. And we have a very special announcement to make that Colette has no idea about.
Okay.
So one of the things that's going to be happening this week, for those who are joining us live, as you guys know, I'm heading to Los Angeles. I'm going to be covering the August Wilson Film Festival in Los Angeles, interviewing some of the cast there. We actually are taking Colette's book to the creator of the film festival this week. And I'm excited to announce that Conversations Book Club's September book pick of the month is Chasing Different by Colette R. Harrell.
That was
So we're
kind of
excited
loud.
about being able to feature Colette's book in the entire month of September, to get you guys to read it,
Oh,
to be able to share your thoughts about it. And Colette's
thank
going to come
you.
back on Conversations Live and Cyrus Webb Presents at the end of September. We're going to have a live discussion with her about the book. So definitely make sure you guys go ahead and get your copy. So again, this week you'll see me with Colette's book there in Los Angeles. We'll be
Oh,
gifting
man.
that at the August Wilson Film Festival, but we also will be making the announcement again officially there in Los Angeles about our book of the month, which is Chasing Different for the month of September.
Wow. Guys, this is all news to me. This is so amazing. Thank you, Cyrus. Oh my God.
Well,
I'm going to LA. I'm going to LA.
You're going to LA. Yes, you are. And I'm so excited
Oh,
about this,
goodness.
Colette. I mean, I was initially when you told me, I'm a visual person. So when you were telling us about the book last year, I was hearing what you were saying, but to actually get into it, and then by taking the words and visualizing it, I was like, wow, this is really something. And so I'm so
Thank
excited
you.
about this, Colette. Excited
Oh,
about having
thank
you
you.
with us in Los Angeles, and excited to be able to share the book with our readers for the book club during the month of September.
This has made my whole month, and y'all don't know my month. So
She's had a month, y'all.
this has been amazing. Thank you
See,
so much.
well,
Oh my
it is.
goodness.
Thank you for a great book. So I do want to say to our audience out there, if you have not read Chasing Different yet, if you have not purchased it, now is your time to be able to get it. For those of you joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, you'll see the link there. We're going to be doing a separate post outside of this to be able to have just the book there with the link there as well. But Colette, if you had to say to someone, what can they expect from Chasing Different, what would you say to them?
A wild ride. I mean, it's not the same in any chapter, and it's layers upon layers of story, and it's just like your life. One Monday is one day, but Tuesday is a whole different ball game. And so these individuals, Nia and Deacon and Jonesy and Sin, all have a wild story to tell on their own, and Chasing Different starts it off. And if I can say anything to you, I would say stop fitting in, be your authentic self, because fitting in has a price and it costs you.
Yeah, yeah. I had a guest come on the show years ago. I think it was like 2019 in
Oh,
Atlanta. I was
wow.
doing a live, and the reason why I'm able to remember the guest, they said something I'd never heard before. Not saying that they came up with it, Colette, but I'd never heard it. They said, "Why fit in when you were created to stand out?" And I heard that, and I thought that is so powerful.
It
That
is.
each one of us were created to be something unique and special. So why fit in when we were created to stand out? I thought that was great.
It is
Um,
great.
so
It's very
Kenyon
fitting for
Glover,
this book.
he was an actor. So Kenyon, I appreciate you. I was interviewing your wife and you there in Atlanta, Georgia. And
Okay.
that's what they said to me. Why fit in when you were meant to stand out? And that has stuck with me all. So again, everyone, Chasing Different is the newest book from Colette R. Harrell. You can also pick up later here on Amazon too. I'm going to highlight it again. Now you mentioned kind of like a prequel, but they don't have to have read later though to get into Chasing Different, right,
No,
Colette?
no.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
it's what ends up happening is a lot of people have read Chasing Different and they're going back and getting later. And then those
got
who
it.
have read later are running and getting Chasing Different. So it's kind of a, relational byproduct of each other, but you'll enjoy a standalone or you can get them together.
Love it. Well, Colette, congratulations to you again. So glad to have you back on the show, and looking forward to our discussion next month.
And thank you for me being on your book club pick. This was an amazing surprise that he did here on air. And you guys saw me get a little loud. When we hang up, I'm gonna be even loud. I'm gonna do my Holy Ghost dance when we hang up. But I want to thank you so much, Cyrus. It's always a pleasure.
Well, I appreciate that. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.